What are students told about their responsibilities as learners, and how do we help them if they are struggling? This teaching tip came as a request from faculty. Faculty told me that it would help them if they knew specifically what students were told so that they could reinforce things the students had already heard if they came to them for help with courses. And faculty wanted to be better aware of all of the resources that are available to help students who are struggling. Students get a lot of information at orientation, and they may find it difficult to remember everything because they are just given so much information during orientation. So we maintain the documentation for them electronically in a student handbook, and they also have available to them an academic success site and a wellness site on the current students page of the collegiate website. In 2022, we built very specific information into orientation, and by we, that is me, Peggy Root, for the education side, and Dr. Vesna Hampel-Kozar, our wellness director, from the student wellness side. So we talked to them at orientation. We reiterated what we had talked to them about throughout fall semester, tried to give them things as sort of in a just-in-time way to help them recognize better ways to study. What were common misconceptions that they may have had in their minds about different kinds of study skills? And how could we encourage them to recognize very early on that they were going to have to think differently about study skills because of the variation in the curriculum that they are now in? So here are some of the things that we told them last year. Number one, veterinary school is different than what you've had before, so you're going to have to learn new study skills. It's a huge credit load. It's basically a full-time job. And everything you learn is relevant. You're going to need to use this information as a veterinarian, and it's extensive, and some of it can be challenging to master. So different from undergrad, you don't have as much choice in what you study. Some of it may not be of any interest to you at all, but you need to know it because you're going to have to use it farther on in your career. Study skills that we specifically stress for them repeatedly are having a calendar, updating that calendar. When are things due? When do you absolutely have to be on campus and in class? Things of that nature. We tell them they should define a dedicated study space where they know other people will not bother them while they're studying, and they know they have the materials they need so they don't have excuses to keep getting up from that space. We talk to them about not just highlighting notes and rewatching lectures as a way to study, as that's probably not the best use of their time. We talk to them about not cramming. How do you best distribute your study time? We talk to them about the value of working with a partner or a group, maybe studying alone first and then clarifying things with a partner, and then maybe working through test questions with a group or something like that. And then finally, we talk to them about the value of self-testing. Great research showing that it is testing ourselves, correcting ourselves, testing ourselves again, that really helps us retain information, and that's a very valuable way for them to use their time when they're studying. We talk to them about disability accommodations and how if they have a diagnosed or suspected disability, they really should seek a consultation with the Disability Resource Center, and we direct them to that so they know that is an acceptable way for them to get the help that they need to help them succeed in the curriculum. We tell them they should read the syllabus for every course and that they should contact the instructor if they need clarifications about what's in the syllabus. It is absolutely okay for you as an instructor, if it's something you know in the syllabus, when somebody asks you a question to say, did you read the syllabus? And send them off to read the syllabus. That encourages them to read the syllabus, which is sort of our contract with the students about what's going to happen in the course. So they should read the syllabus. I can see why they may choose not to if they have 11 syllabi to read and they're all very lengthy. But if they have specific questions, you should be able to direct them to the syllabus to be able to find that. And the syllabus should be posted on every one of our courses in the Course Canvas site. We talked to them about the policies around behavior in the college. They are becoming professionals. They're not just learning this information, they're becoming a veterinarian. And we have ways that we interact with each other and with the public that are the way we work as a profession, and they need to be thinking about those. So there's a technical standards document that all of them read and sign as they start veterinary medicine, which gets at the nitty-gritty of how do we actually function, what do you need to be able to physically do to be a veterinarian, and how do we behave as veterinarians. And they also work through the honor and behavioral conduct codes, thinking about, again, how do we interact with each other? How do I talk to my classmates? How do I talk to the professors? How do I talk to the staff? How do I work with clients when I'm in the hospital? And then we remind them to take care of themselves, that they need to get enough sleep. They need to eat properly. They need to exercise regularly. Do all of those things to keep their body in as good a shape as they can, because their brain is part of their body and they're not going to be able to learn well if they're not paying attention to that. And that they need to consider their mental health. They need to think of ways that they can continue things that are personally interesting to them, hobbies that they have, things they like to read, playing an instrument, playing a sport, whatever those things are, and maintaining their personal relationships over this time that they're in veterinary school. And then finally, if you need help, ask for it. And we'll talk a little bit more in a bit about sort of what are the tiers of assistance that are available for the students. So when we offered that last year, that was the class of 2026, and so we decided to do a little study to see if we could verify that they were learning. And they were. They were able to say, oh, I used to believe that rewatching lectures was the best way to do it, and now I know that it is not. So they did learn about learning. They learned about learning theory and about memory and what would help them best retain information, things of that nature. And they were able to tell me that they knew what resources existed to help them and how to find those resources. So they are responsive to learning about study skills, and we will be repeating and even enhancing these efforts to help them get this basic information during orientation and throughout the first semester for the incoming class. With that incoming class, one of the things we're going to do is to have them take a survey prior to orientation so we can get an idea of where specifically each student may need more support with study skills, and can contact them individually and say, here's information specifically about different kinds of calendars that are available and why you might want to use an electronic versus a hard copy calendar, things of that nature. And then we're going to have several face-to-face sessions, again with myself and Vesna, to reinforce those messages, to really help them think about, what have I done so far? How did that first exam go? How should that change how I study? How should that change how I'm taking care of myself? Things of that nature. One of the things we're going to stress for them this year is that right now it is their job to be in veterinary school. And like it is for all of us with our job, we need to show up every day, recognizing that there are going to be times that we don't feel like it, but we show up every day. We acknowledge what happens that's due to our own actions, good and bad. That's part of what we do at our job and what we need them to do. They need to remember, as we all do, that I am working at my job, but I am not my job. I am also a mother and a wife and a daughter, and all those other components of my life are important, and I need to maintain those as well. And recognizing that for your job, you have to be committed over the long haul. This is not one day and done. This is something that you're going to be working and building on over time. And this is what we're going to remind them. This is your job. And this is what it's like when you're a grown-up and you have a job. And this is how you should be thinking about your time in veterinary school. Now thinking about how they should seek help, there are a lot of options available. And we sort of think of them as a stepwise process. So first would be the instructor, second would be different kinds of coaching that are available, and third would be coming to academic and student affairs, because oftentimes that comes to a conversation about, are you going to continue in the program or do you need to take a leave? So first step is always talking to the instructor and or the course coordinator about the content and about specifically where they're struggling in the course. This is something that you, as the instructor or course coordinator, understand at a much greater level of detail than anyone could in administration or support. And so it's valuable for that student to come and say, I really feel like I'm not getting these concepts. I really thought I understood this, but then I didn't do well on the exam questions. You, as the instructor, have a deeper knowledge of the content and can really help talk that student through this to help them understand where they are struggling and what they might need. Instructors often tell me they're apprehensive sometimes because they don't know if they're going to miss that a student might have a disability that needs to be addressed or might have a personal issue that's impacting their ability to succeed in your course. And if you have a concern like that, it is absolutely very fine to refer that student to the Disability Resource Center or to Dr. Hampel-Kozar for a one-on-one meeting to help sort that through and figure out whether or not that is part of the concern. Second step is working through some of those coaching assistances that are available. So one is the Jumpstart Student Club. This is group coaching available intermittently throughout the first year. And this is called Jumpstart because it is basically second year students helping the first year students very specifically with those courses that need a little bit of extra coaching help, like anatomy, where there's just so much memorization. Students can also talk to Academic and Student Affairs, and specifically to Laurel Zastro in Academic and Student Affairs, about being assigned a Vet Pack coach. And the Vet Pack coaches are second, third, and fourth year students who have been trained to coach students in the first, second, and third years, so basically students who are behind them in their training. These are students who are paid for this work, and they provide either one-on-one or small group coaching and are available more continuously throughout the year. They are a limited resource, and they get to decide when they do the coaching because, of course, they are still students themselves. And so, yes, they are available throughout the year, but we don't always have Vet Pack coaches when students want them. And that's why we have things like Jumpstart, where there are other ways for students to study in groups and get some coaching. And then, as I said, the final step would be talking to somebody in Academic and Student Affairs about specific student needs. And oftentimes this is thinking about, is this a short-term concern? Is this a larger concern? How do we best help this student get through the program as a whole, not just focusing on getting through one course at a time? So what else can you do as an instructor or course coordinator to help the students? So first of all, maybe make some time in your class to say, hey, it might be good to have study groups. You know, there are the study guides that you work on. You're certainly welcome to talk in groups about how you're going to respond to the questions in those study guides. Do you guys need a couple of minutes to talk about that? Maybe just make it clear what it's absolutely okay for them to do as groups and encourage them to do that. Think about universal design. What are the things that we do that help us create a course in a way that means we're meeting a lot of different students' accommodations automatically in the course? And there will be a teaching tip later on this year specifically about universal design. And then finally, talk to the students about the best ways to approach learning of the material specifically to be successful in your course. So I'll give you an example from Comparative Theorio. The students there do a big project. It's an algorithm on infertility, which is a great project at helping them integrate information. And we permit them to submit a first draft. They can get feedback on that first draft and then use that feedback to improve their final submission. And Dr. Medill and I tell them right straight out, if you do the first draft and get that feedback, you will get a better grade. Historically, students who have done that first work really made a first shot at it, gotten some very specific feedback, and used it, have done much better on the final product. That's the sort of thing that you can do to help students really understand, yeah, it really is okay to submit it. You have to show that you've made a significant effort before you submit that first draft. But if you do, it's going to deepen your learning and improve your grade. And that's what they're looking for. How can I make sure I'm getting this material and I'm getting credit for what I know in this class? If you have any questions about any of this information, you can contact me. I'm Dr. Peggy Root, and I can be reached at rootk001@umn.edu, or you can contact anyone in the CVM Education Support Group at cvmces@umn.edu.